The cold metal walls of the enemy ship echoed with the sound of heavy footsteps. Captain Jax Heron moved carefully through the narrow corridor. His heart beat steady, but inside, he knew time was running out. Somewhere nearby, danger waited. Jax had been on many missions before. He was skilled, brave, and calm even in the worst situations. But this time was different. This ship belonged to the Zelthar, a fierce alien race known for their deadly warriors and strange weapons. Their ships were fast and full of traps. Suddenly, a shadow moved quickly in front of him. Before Jax could react, a sharp blade pressed against his neck. The blade was thin, curved, and dripping with a strange green liquid that looked like poison. The woman holding the knife had eyes like fire, bright and dangerous. Her skin was a dark purple color, and her hair moved like snakes. "Any last words? Human?" she hissed, her voice cold and full of hate. Jax smiled, not with fear but with confidence. He looked directly into her eyes. "You really think this is the end?" he said softly. "I'm just getting started." The woman's lips curled into a cruel smile. "You're brave, or maybe just foolish. Either way, your time is up." Her name was Velra. She was one of the best assassins in the Zelthar fleet. Many enemies had fallen to her venomous blade, but Jax was different. He had survived worse odds, and he had a secret plan. Velra tightened her grip and moved the knife closer. Jax felt the cold steel against his skin. His mind raced. He needed to act fast. Then, almost without thinking, Jax dropped a small device from his wrist. It looked like a tiny disc. It landed on the floor and started to glow softly. Velra blinked, confused. The device sent out a low pulse. The green poison on her knife fizzled and disappeared. Her muscles twitched and she took a small step back, surprised. Jax took the moment. "You didn't expect that, did you?" he said with a smirk. Velra hissed in frustration. "What trick is this?" "No trick," Jax replied. "Just human technology you don't know about." Velra stared at him, her eyes narrowing. "Humans are clever, I will give you that. But you won't get away." Jax moved slowly, keeping his eyes on her. "I don't want to fight you," he said, "but I will if I have to." Velra's expression changed. She looked at the device again, then at Jax. For a moment there was silence. Then Velra made a decision. She lowered her knife slightly and said, "Wait, we need to talk." Jax was surprised but stayed alert. "Talk? Why?" Velra looked around nervously. "Because there is something bigger going on. Something that threatens us both." Jax listened, carefully. "Go on." Velra explained that her people, the Zelthar, had been controlled by a powerful warlord. This warlord wanted to start a war across the galaxy. He used the Zelthar to attack humans and other races, but now Velra wanted to stop him. Jax thought about this. The warlord sounded dangerous, and if true, could mean disaster for many worlds. Maybe working with Velra was the only way to stop him. But could he trust her? Velra's voice softened. "If we don't work together, we both die." Jax studied her face. She seemed serious. He decided to take a chance. "Okay," he said. "We talk, but no tricks." Velra nodded. "No tricks." They moved to a small room nearby, away from the main corridors. Velra sat down and motioned for Jax to do the same. As they talked, Jax learned more about the Zelthar. They were fierce warriors with sharp minds, but also proud and loyal to their own kind. Velra told him about the warlord's plan to use an ancient weapon hidden in the human territory. This weapon could destroy entire planets. Jax's heart sank. He had heard rumors of such weapons, but never proof. "We have to stop him," Jax said firmly. Velra agreed. "But it will not be easy. The warlord has many guards, traps, and machines. We will need a plan." Jax smiled again. "That's why I'm still here." Velra looked at him with new respect. "You're not like other humans." Jax shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe humans are just better at surviving." Outside, the ship hummed with power. Somewhere beyond those walls, their enemies prepared for war. But inside the small room, two former enemies were forming a fragile alliance. Jax knew the road ahead would be dangerous. He had no idea what challenges waited. But one thing was certain. Humanity would fight back. They would never give up. And Jax Heron was ready to prove it. Captain Jax Heron and Velra sat quietly for a moment, the tension between them thick but slowly easing. The small room they had retreated to was dim, lit only by a few blinking lights on the walls. Outside, the enemy ship continued its steady hum. But inside, a new kind of energy grew, one of uneasy trust. Jax looked at Velra, the alien assassin who had once threatened his life. She was unlike any enemy he had faced before. Her purple skin was marked with strange patterns, and her sharp eyes seemed to study him carefully, searching for weakness. "I need to know more about your people," Jax said finally. "How did you end up working for this warlord? And why did you want to kill me in the first place?" Velra's eyes narrowed. "The Zelther have no choice. The warlord controls us through fear and technology. He uses a device implanted in every soldier's neck. It keeps us loyal or kills us." She pointed to the side of her neck where a faint glow pulsed beneath her skin. "I was ordered to kill you because you are a threat to his plans. But the more I learned, the more I hated what he was doing." Jax nodded slowly. "So you want to break free from him?" "Yes," Velra said simply. "But it will not be easy. The warlord has spies everywhere." Jax rubbed his chin. "We'll need a plan, and we'll need to move carefully." Velra leaned forward. "There is a way to disable the control devices," she explained, "but the warlord keeps the key in his control room. Without it, we cannot free the others." Jax's eyes brightened. "Then that's where we start." They left the small room and began moving through the ship's corridors. Velra led the way, silent and sure, her steps light against the metal floor. Jax followed, careful to watch their surroundings. The ship was unlike any Jax had ever seen. The walls seemed alive with strange technology. Screens flashed with alien symbols and machines hummed with unknown power. Every corner held danger. Suddenly, a soft beep sounded from Jax's wrist device, the same one that had saved him earlier. He looked down and saw a faint red light flashing. "Enemy patrol ahead," he whispered. Velra froze. "We must hide." They slipped into a nearby maintenance hatch and crouched in the darkness. Through the small opening, they saw a group of Zelthar soldiers marching by, their weapons ready. Jax held his breath. He could feel the soldiers' heavy boots pounding the floor, hear their harsh voices speaking in a language he did not understand. When the patrol passed, Velra peeked out. "That was close," she said quietly. Jax nodded. "Too close." They moved again, deeper into the ship. Velra explained the layout as they went. "The control room is at the center, heavily guarded." Jax smirked. "Sounds like a challenge." As they approached the center of the ship, Jax noticed something strange on the floor. A faint shimmer like a thin layer of invisible energy. "Watch out," he warned. "That's a security trap." Velra nodded. "I can disable it." She pulled a small tool from her belt and pressed it against the floor. A soft click sounded and the shimmer disappeared. Jax smiled. "Nice work." Finally, they reached a heavy door marked with the warlord symbol. Velra took a deep breath and pressed a series of buttons. The door hissed open slowly. Inside, the control room was filled with glowing panels and strange machines. At the center, a tall figure stood with his back to them, a man in dark armor, commanding and cruel. The warlord turned suddenly, his eyes cold and hard. "So the human and the traitor arrive at last," he said. Jax stepped forward, keeping his voice steady. "Your control ends here." The warlord laughed. "You are brave, but foolish. My soldiers will crush you both." Suddenly, the room filled with the sound of alarms. Guards began to pour in from hidden doors. Velra hissed, "We're outnumbered." Jax grinned. Not for long. He pressed a button on his wrist device. A sudden pulse shot out, disrupting the warlord's machines. The lights flickered and the guards hesitated. Jax and Velra moved quickly. Velra darted forward to confront the warlord, her venomous blade flashing. Jax used the confusion to reach the control panel. His fingers flew over the buttons, searching for the device key. The warlord fought fiercely, but Velra's skill was unmatched. The two battled with speed and precision. Jax found the key, a small crystal glowing with power. He grabbed it and shouted, "I've got it!" Velra pushed the warlord back with a swift strike. "Get out of here!" she yelled. Jax didn't wait. He pressed the key into a slot on the panel. A bright light filled the room as the control devices on every Zelthar soldier were disabled. The warlord's expression changed from anger to shock. "No, this cannot be." Velra took advantage of his distraction and struck a final blow. The warlord collapsed. The alarms stopped. The guards looked around, confused and suddenly free from control. Some lowered their weapons. Jax and Velra breathed. Heavily, but they smiled. They had won this battle. Velra turned to Jax. "You saved my people." Jax shook his head. "No, we saved each other." Outside, the ship's systems began to change. The control of the warlord was broken. As they made their way to the exit, Jax realized something important. The galaxy was bigger and more dangerous than he had ever imagined. But with courage, trust, and a little human ingenuity, Evie and the strongest enemies could be overcome. Velra looked at him with respect. "What now?" Jax grinned. "Now, we take this fight to the rest of his forces." And with that, the human and the Zelthar assassin disappeared into the shadows, ready for the battles ahead. The dim lights of the enemy ship flickered as Captain Jax Heron and Velra moved swiftly through the corridors. The warlord was defeated, but the battle was far from over. Many Zelthar soldiers still obeyed old commands, unaware their control devices had been disabled. Chaos had begun to spread, and Jax knew they had little time. Velra glanced at Jax, her sharp eyes full of determination. "We need to take control of the ship's communication systems. If we can send a message to your fleet, maybe they can prepare for what's coming." Jax nodded. "Agreed. Let's find the communication room." They made their way through the twisting hallways, stepping carefully over fallen guards and broken equipment. The ship was like a maze, designed to confuse and trap enemies. But Velra knew the layout well, and Jax trusted her instinct. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the ship. Red lights flashed and a deep voice echoed over the speakers, speaking in the harsh Zelthar language. Jax frowned. "They must have backup forces coming. We can't waste time." Velra pulled him into a small side room, sealing the door behind them. "There's a lot you don't know about the Zelthar," she said quietly. "They are proud, fierce warriors, but many don't want to fight anymore now that they're free from the warlord's control." Jax looked at her curiously. "So, you think they'll listen to reason?" Velra shrugged. "Maybe, if we show them the truth." After a brief rest, they continued their mission. The communication room was deep inside the ship, protected by heavy doors and security systems. Jax approached the panel and studied it. "This looks complicated," Velra smiled slightly. "I've dealt with worse." She knelt down and began working on the control panel, her fingers moving with skill and speed. Jax watched, impressed by her knowledge and focus. Minutes passed and finally the system came alive. The room filled with screens showing star maps and ship positions. Jax tapped the console. "Can you send a message to the human fleet?" Velra nodded. "I will try." She began typing a message in both the Zelthar language and the human code, explaining the warlord's defeat and warning of incoming dangers. As she worked, Jax felt a strange sense of hope. Here, in the heart of an enemy ship, a new alliance was forming, one that could change the fate of the galaxy. Suddenly, the door to the communication room burst open. Several Zelthar soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. Jax and Velra froze for a moment, then sprang into action. Jax grabbed a nearby metal pipe and swung it, knocking a soldier to the ground. Velra's blade flashed as she moved with deadly grace, disarming another. The fight was quick and fierce. Jax's strength and Velra's skill made them a powerful team. When the last soldier fell, Velra looked at Jax, breathing hard. "We can't hold this place forever," Jax agreed. "We need to finish the message and get out." Velra quickly typed the last words and hit the send button. The message shot out across space, carrying their warning to the human fleet. Jax checked the screens. "They received it." Velra smiled. "Good. Now, we prepare for what comes next." As they left the communication room, Jax and Velra moved toward the ship's main hangar. They needed a way off this enemy vessel, and fast. On the way, they passed groups of Zelthar soldiers who looked confused and uncertain. Some stopped to stare at Velra, others at Jax. The sight of the human and the former assassin together was strange. Velra raised her hand. "We are not your enemies," she said loudly. "The warlord who controlled us is dead. We must choose our own path." Some soldiers hesitated. Others lowered their weapons. The room grew quieter. Jax stepped forward. "We fight for freedom for all of us. Not just humans or Zelthar, but everyone." A murmur spread through the crowd. The soldiers looked at each other, unsure but hopeful. Velra turned to Jax. "You have a way with words, human." Jax grinned. "Years of practice. In the hangar, they found a small fighter ship." Velra examined the controls. "I can fly this." Jax nodded. "Then let's get out of here before more enemies arrive." Together, they climbed into the cockpit. Velra's fingers flew over the controls as the ship powered up. Outside, the enemy vessel began to shake as more alarms sounded. Jax checked their course. "We're headed back to the human fleet. They need to know everything." Velra looked at him. "You trust them?" Jax smiled. "I trust that people can change." The fighter blasted away from the enemy ship, slipping through space with speed and grace. As they flew toward safety, Jax thought about what had happened. The warlord's power was broken, but the real fight was just beginning. Together, humans and Zelthar could build something new, a future where old enemies became allies. Velra looked out the window, her expression softening. "Maybe this is the start of a new kind of war, one we don't have to fight." Jax nodded. "Maybe, but if we do, we fight together." The stars stretched out before them, endless and full of promise. And for the first time in a long time, hope shone bright in the darkness. The fighter ship sped through the endless blackness of space, stars rushing past like streaks of light. Captain Jax Heron sat in the pilot's seat, his eyes fixed ahead, but his mind was busy with thoughts. Beside him, Velra monitored the ship's systems, her sharp gaze focused yet calm. They had escaped the warlord's ship, sent the warning to the human fleet, and gained a fragile alliance. But Jax knew this was only the beginning. "We can't. Stay quiet," Jax said, breaking the silence. "The warlord's forces will come after us. He won't give up so easily." Velra nodded. "I agree. We need to strike first, find the source of his power and destroy it." Jax leaned back in his seat. "What do you know about this ancient weapon you mentioned?" Velra looked thoughtful. "It is called the Starfire Core, a weapon created long ago by a lost civilization. It can destroy entire planets in seconds. The warlord wants to use it to control the galaxy." Jack swallowed hard. The stories he had heard as a child about such weapons were terrifying, and now the threat was real. "We have to find the core before he does," Velra said. Jax nodded. "And we need help." The fighter approached the human fleet, a large group of ships orbiting a distant star. As they docked, Jax was met by Admiral Kira Voss, a strong woman with a sharp mind and calm authority. "We received your message," Kira said. "The warlord's plan is worse than we feared." Jax nodded. "We stopped him on his ship, but the Starfire Core is still out there. We need a team to find it and destroy it." Kira's eyes narrowed. "This will be dangerous, but if anyone can do it, it's you and this Velra." Velra bowed slightly. "I will do whatever it takes." A team was quickly assembled. Human, Soldiers, scientists, and a few Zelthar warriors who had been freed from control. They studied maps and data, searching for clues to the core's location. Days passed as the team prepared. Jax trained the soldiers, sharing what he had learned about the Zelthar and their tactics. Velra taught them how to move silently and fight smart. One evening, as Jax reviewed the mission plans, Velra approached him. "There is a place," she said softly, "a hidden planet where the core might be kept. It is heavily guarded, but there is a secret entrance." Jax raised an eyebrow. "How do you know this?" Velra's eyes darkened. "I once worked near that planet. I saw the warlord's ships." Arriving there, Jax nodded. "Then that's where we go." The team's ships jumped through space toward the hidden planet. As they neared, sensors detected heavy defenses, missile turrets, shields, and patrol drones. Jax looked at the map. "We need to be careful. This won't be easy." Velra stepped forward. "I can lead a small team through the secret entrance. It is an old mining tunnel, forgotten by most." Jax smiled. "Good. You and I will go in first. The others will provide support." The plan was set. Jax and Velra landed near the tunnel entrance, a rocky opening hidden by thick vines and dust. The air was thin but breathable. The planet was quiet, almost peaceful, a stark contrast to the danger ahead. They moved inside the tunnel, the light from their suits cutting through the darkness. The walls were rough and uneven, signs of ancient mining long abandoned. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the tunnel. Velra stopped, her hand on her blade. "Stay close," she whispered. They crept forward, and from the shadows emerged a pack of strange creatures, large, with glowing eyes and sharp claws. The creatures hissed and lunged. Jax raised his pulse, rifle firing carefully. Velra moved with speed, her blade flashing in the dark. Together they fought off the creatures, but the battle was fierce. When the last creature fell, Velra breathed heavily. "This place is alive with danger." Jax wiped sweat from his brow. "We have to keep moving." Deeper in the tunnels, they found signs of the warlord's presence. Security cameras, traps, and strange machines. Velra disabled several traps with her tools, while Jax hacked into security panels to avoid alarms. As they reached the end of the tunnel, a massive door blocked their way. Symbols glowed on the metal surface, ancient writing warning of danger beyond. Jax looked at Velra. "Ready?" She nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be." Together they pushed the door open. Inside was a large chamber filled with humming energy. At the center sat the Starfire core, a glowing orb pulsing with power. Before they could move closer, alarms blared. Guards poured into the chamber, Zelthar warriors loyal to the warlord. Velra growled, drawing her blade. "We have to fight." Jax raised his rifle. "For freedom." The battle was intense. Jax and Velra fought side by side, their movements in perfect sync. The Zelthar warriors were strong, but the determination of the human and the former assassin was stronger. As the last guard fell, Jax moved to the core. "We need to destroy it." Velra searched the chamber and found a control panel. "There is a shutdown sequence, but it will take time." Jax stood guard while Velra worked, the core's energy casting eerie light over the room. Suddenly, a shadow moved behind them. The warlord himself appeared, more powerful than before. "You think you can stop me?" he sneered. "I am the future of this galaxy." Velra faced him, her blade ready. "Not while we live." Jax took aim with his rifle. The final fight was about to begin. The warlord's eyes burned with fury as he stepped into the glowing chamber. The Starfire core hummed behind him, casting sharp shadows across the walls. Captain Jax Heron tightened his grip on his rifle. Velra's blade gleamed in the strange light, her muscles ready to strike. "You think you can stop me?" The warlord hissed. "I control everything, every fleet, every soldier. You are nothing but ants beneath my feet." Velra didn't hesitate. She moved like lightning, her blade slicing through the air toward the warlord. He barely dodged, his armor blocking the strike. The fight had begun. Jack stayed close, eyes scanning for any chance to help. The warlord was powerful and fast, But he underestimated the combined strength of human courage and Velra's skill. The chamber was silent except for the sounds of the fight, the clash of blade on armor, the heavy breaths of the warriors, and the low hum of the Starfire core. Velra circled the warlord looking for a weakness. She saw a small gap in his armor near the shoulder. With a swift strike, she aimed for it. The warlord roared, blocking her attack with a metal arm. "You will die here." Jax saw his chance. He raised his rifle and fired, aiming for the warlord's exposed back. The shot hit, but the warlord's armor absorbed most of the impact. He turned quickly, grabbing Jax's arm and throwing him against the wall. Pain shot through Jax's body, but he rolled to his feet, ready to fight again. Velra faced the warlord alone for a moment. She knew she couldn't hold him off forever. The core's energy grew stronger, and they had little time. Jax saw the control panel where Velra had started the shutdown sequence.
"Velra, the panel!" he shouted. She nodded, breaking away from the fight and running to the panel. The warlord roared in frustration but followed her. Jax stayed between them, firing carefully to keep the warlord back. Velra worked fast, pressing
buttons and pulling levers. The core's light began to fade. The warlord's anger turned to panic. "No, you will not destroy my power!" With a furious shout, he charged at Velra. She dodged, but the warlord's fist struck the panel, causing sparks to fly. Jax shouted, "Velra, hurry!" Velra pressed one final button. The core's hum slowed, then stopped. The glowing orb dimmed until it was nothing but a dark stone. The warlord stared in disbelief. Impossible. Jax and Velra moved together, ready to finish the fight. The warlord lunged one last time, but Velra caught his arm and twisted it behind his back. Jax struck him with a swift blow to the head, and the warlord collapsed, unconscious. The chamber grew quiet. The danger was over, for now. Jax helped Velra catch her breath. "We did it. The core is destroyed." Velra nodded, a tired smile crossing her face. "The warlord's control is broken. His forces will no longer obey him." Jax looked at the fallen warlord. "What happens to him?" Velra considered this. "He will be held for trial. His power is gone, but justice must be done." Jax nodded. "Good." They moved toward the chamber's exit, ready to return to their team. Outside the chamber, the freed Zelthar soldiers gathered. Their eyes were clearer, their faces less filled with anger and fear. One of the soldiers stepped forward. "You have saved us," he said in broken Common. "We owe you our lives." Velra smiled. "We are all free now. The warlord's shadow is gone." Jax looked around at the faces of the soldiers, strong, proud warriors ready to choose their own path. He felt a surge of hope. This is just the beginning. Together, humans and Zelthar can build a better future. The soldiers nodded, some even offering tentative smiles. Back on the human fleet, Admiral Kira Voss awaited their return. When Jax and Velra landed, she greeted them with respect. "The warlord has fallen," Jax reported. "The Starfire core is destroyed. His control is broken." Kira's eyes shone with relief. "This is the news we needed. The galaxy will breathe easier because of your courage." Velra stepped forward. "Now we must work to rebuild trust between our peoples," Jax agreed. "The warlord's war was one of fear and control. We will make a new war, one of cooperation and peace." Kira smiled. "Then let's begin." In the days that followed, humans and Zelthar worked side by side. The freed warriors helped repair ships and train soldiers. Scientists studied the Starfire core's remains, learning how to prevent such weapons in the future. Jax and Velra grew closer, their partnership built on respect and trust. One evening, standing on the deck of a starship, Jax looked out at the stars. Velra joined him. The war was dark, but now there is light. Jax nodded. "We proved that even the greatest enemies can become allies." Velra smiled. "And that humans are stronger than anyone thought." Jax laughed softly. "Humanity's greatest weapon is its heart." The stars stretched on, endless and bright, promising new adventures and challenges. Together, they were ready to face whatever came next. The calm after the battle felt strange. Captain Jax Heron stood on the bridge of the human fleet's flagship, looking out at the vastness of space. The warlord was defeated, the Starfire Corps destroyed, but Jax knew the war was not yet over. Other dangers still lurked in the shadows. Beside him stood Velra, her eyes sharp and alert. Though she was no longer a prisoner of the warlord's control, the past still weighed on her. Yet her loyalty now was clear. She fought for freedom and a better future for both their peoples. Reports say some of the warlord's followers have scattered to other systems, Velra said softly. They may try to regroup and seek revenge. Jax nodded. We have to stop them before they can. Admiral Kira Voss entered the room, her face serious. We have located a secret base. It is believed to be the warlord's last stronghold. If we strike there, we can end this war once and for all. Jax exchanged a glance with Velra. Then we make our move. The fleet prepared for battle. Ships powered up their engines. Weapon systems were readied, and soldiers trained for the fight ahead. Jax stood among them, sharing words of encouragement. Remember, this is not just a fight for survival, he told them. It's a fight for peace for the future. We are stronger together. Velra added, the Zelther will fight beside you. We know what it means to be free. The soldiers nodded, their faces full of determination. The fleet jumped into hyperspace and emerged near the secret base, a massive station orbiting a barren planet. The base was heavily defended, surrounded by shields and a fleet of warships loyal to the fallen warlord. Jax studied the tactical map. We need a plan that uses all our strengths. Velra stepped forward. I will lead a strike team to disable the shields from inside. If we can bring them down, your ships can attack. Jax smiled. I'll lead the fleet's attack. Let's do this. As the battle began, the fleet launched waves of fighters and bombers at the enemy ships. Explosions lit the dark space, and the sounds of battle echoed through the ships. Jax piloted his ship with skill, dodging enemy fire and striking hard. The human pilots fought bravely, but the enemy was well prepared. Meanwhile, Velra and her team infiltrated the base. Moving silently through corridors, they avoided patrols and security systems. Velra's knowledge of the Zelthar technology gave them an advantage. They reached the shield control room guarded by several elite soldiers. Without hesitation, Velra led the attack. Her blade moved swiftly, disabling guards before alarms could sound. Jax watched the battle through his ship's sensors, waiting for the signal. Inside the base, Velra worked quickly to disable the shields. The control panel was complex, but she pressed buttons and flipped switches with confidence. Suddenly, the base shook violently. The enemy had sent reinforcements to stop them. Velra's team fought fiercely, holding off waves of attackers. With every second, the shield weakened. Finally, the screen showed the shield falling. Shields down, Velra whispered. Jax heard the message and gave the order. Attack! The human fleet fired powerful beams and missiles at the base. The enemy ships scrambled, but the sudden assault overwhelmed them. The base shook again as explosions tore through its defenses. Back inside the base, the warlords' followers gathered in the main hall, preparing for a last stand. Their leader, a fierce warrior named Kale, shouted orders to defend the station. Velra confronted Kale, her blade ready. You will not stop us, he growled. Velra's eyes flashed. Freedom will always win. The two clashed, their fight intense and fast. Jax fought his way through enemy fighters, heading toward the base's core to support Velra. The battle reached its peak. Jax and Velra fought side by side once more. Kyle was strong, but Velra's skill and Jax's support made the difference. Finally, Velra disarmed Kale and knocked him to the ground. Jax secured the control room, shutting down the remaining systems. The base's defenses failed completely. As the dust settled, the enemy forces surrendered. The war was over. Jax and Velra stood together, tired but victorious. Admiral Kira arrived with her officers. You have done the impossible. The galaxy owes you its thanks. Velra smiled faintly. We fought not just for humans or Zelthar, but for all who seek peace. Jax looked at the stars outside. This is the start of something new, a future where we fight together, not against each other. Days later on the flagship's deck, Jax and Velra stood side by side watching the stars. Velra spoke softly. "You humans are stronger than I believed." Jax laughed. "It's not just strength, it's hope, courage, and the will to protect what we love." Velra nodded. "And sometimes it takes a human to remind us of that." Jax smiled. "Then, let's make sure the galaxy never forgets." The stars shimmered, endless and full of promise. Together they were ready for whatever came next. The stars twinkled quietly outside the window of the flagship's command room. Captain Jax Heron stood beside Velra, watching the vast galaxy spread before them. The warlord was defeated, the Starfire core destroyed, and the last enemy base secured. But what came next mattered even more. "Do you ever wonder what peace really looks like?" Velra asked softly. Jax smiled. "I think peace is not just the absence of war. It's something we build, step by step together." Velra nodded. "It's strange to feel hope after so much darkness." Jax looked at her. "You changed everything, Velra. You showed us that even the fiercest enemies can become our strongest allies." They both knew the road ahead would be difficult. Many wounds needed healing, many bridges needed building. But they were ready. The fleet gathered in the main hall for a historic meeting. Humans and Zelthar sat side by side, sharing stories, plans, and dreams for the future. Admiral Kira Voss stood before them, her voice strong and clear. "We have faced a terrible enemy, but we have proven that unity is our greatest strength," she said. "Today we begin a new chapter, one of friendship, cooperation, and shared destiny." Applause filled the room. Soldiers and warriors, scientists and leaders all felt the power of this moment. Jax watched Velra speak to a group of young Zelthar soldiers. She told them stories of bravery and forgiveness, of hope and courage. The human captain felt proud. The galaxy was changing, and humans were leading the way. In the days that followed, work began to rebuild. Former battlefields became training grounds. Warships were repaired and improved. Scientists studied alien technology, learning to combine it with human innovation. Jax and Velra traveled between worlds, speaking to leaders, inspiring people. They spoke of peace but reminded all that vigilance was necessary. Danger still lurked in the galaxy's corners, but together they could face it. One evening, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the bright lights of a bustling spaceport, Velra asked, "What will you do now, Captain?" Jax smiled. "I'll keep fighting. For peace, for justice, for the future." Velra's eyes softened. "And I'll be by your side." Time passed, and stories of their courage spread far and wide. The name of Jax Heron became a symbol of hope. Velra was remembered as the warrior who changed her people's fate. Together they helped create a new alliance, a group of planets and species united by trust and respect. The galaxy was not perfect, but it was better. One clear night, Jax and Velra stood on a quiet hill, looking up at the stars. The sky was filled with light and possibility. Jax said, "Do you think the warlord ever dreamed we'd come this far?" Velra laughed softly. "He never believed in the power of people, the power of hope." Jax took her hand. "Neither do I. That's why we won." They stood in silence, the future bright before them. The new dawn had come, a dawn where humans and aliens stood together, ready to face whatever challenges the stars would bring. A dawn where courage, friendship, and hope would guide the way. And, in that dawn, the story of humanity's strength, its heart, would shine forever.